Hi, welcome to your week 3 assignment. I just wanted to go through how to possibly solve some of the questions that are being asked here because I know that sometimes students don't turn this assignment in, and it could be because it's week 3, and it could be because it gets a little bit confusing or stressful. But I want to kind of run through the steps with you because it's actually really fun. We're going to be looking at how we can use data measurements or data points to kind of extrapolate a linear regression. And what that means is we're going to use some data and we're going to look at how does this data look and how close to an actual line does it actually come? Because what we're kind of looking at is generally the taller you are, the bigger or longer your femur. Your femur bone connects your knee bone to your pelvic bone. And one way that scientists look at clues, maybe from somebody who's died, so a deceased person, if they want to determine their identity or they want to look at their height and see how high or how tall the person was, they can have an idea by looking at their femur bone. If they measure their femur bone, then it will kind of correlate to how high their height was. So the goal is you're going to measure femurs. So you need about 6 different femurs. This might be hard to do, but find your friends, your neighbors, your family members, and measure their femurs lengths from their kneecap to their pelvic bone, and then measure their height. And if you could do it in centimeters, that would be great. I have some values here. 44 centimeters correlates to a height of 153 centimeters, 45 centimeters to 177 centimeters in height, and so on and so forth. So I've got about 6 different femur lengths and the heights of people. I sent you a message that lists some femur lengths and heights as well. So that's another way you can get some data for this exercise if you're not able to find a 5th or 6th person. So notice that there's a link here that we're going to be clicking on, and this is where you're going to enter your X, Y data. Okay, so your X data is your femur length, your Y data will be your height. Okay, so I have 6 XY coordinate pairs, so I'm going to add another one. There's 4, 5, and 6. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my values. I have 44, 45, 48, 39, 39, and 48. So I'll take those values and I'll go ahead and put them in 44, 45, 48, 39, 39, and 48. So there's all my femur lengths. And then what we're going to do is we're going to enter in all of our heights, 153, 177, and so on and so forth. So I'll put those in the chart. All right, so I've gone ahead and put the 153, 177, 172, 150, all of my heights into the chart. So here's my X, Y point, another X, Y point. And if you were to actually graph it, you would see these as a scatter plot. We're going to calculate now, and I'm going to hit this button here and it says calculate. And so here I have the number 6. I've got 6 total points. This is the slope of my line. Here is my intercept, my y-intercept. And so remember our equation is y equals mx plus b. So here is y equals, here's my mx plus b. Another way that you can kind of look at your data quickly and kind of see what we're talking about here as far as a linear regression is if you were to graph it. So one thing I did was I put all the values into Excel, and what I'm going to do here is graph. So I've put the values into each cell here, and then what I'm going to do is I'd like to insert a chart, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to make a XY scatter plot of my data, and we can kind of see it right there. Notice that my data is kind of clumped up in the far right hand side. So I'm just going to format this a little bit. I'm going to change my axes here. From 0 to 60, I'm going to make my minimum. Let's make it a 30 instead. And see how it kind of shrinks my graph up a little bit. Let's go ahead and make it a 35. And all of a sudden you kind of see it spreading out a little bit better. So let's go ahead and we're going to make a linear equation and a trend line. So what we can do here is, let's see, I'm going to go to add a chart element, and I'm going to add a trend line, and I'm going to make it linear, and you can see that my line shows up. And then what we can see over here, let me see if I can get my other chart. Okay, so it looks like if I want to format my trend line, I'm going to shrink my window so you can kind of see it here. If I go down here, I can display my equation, and let me see if I can pull it up here. It looks like it's the exact same equation that you saw earlier. 3.161, let's look, is that pretty close? Yeah, 3.161, and the y-intercept is 25. And so what that tells me is my slope is about 3.2, and it tells me that if I were to keep going until I hit 0, that if my femur was 0, I'd have a height of 25. And that doesn't really make sense, right? Because if I had no femur, I'd probably have no height either. But this gives you a good indication that the bigger my femur, the taller I get.